Today we are talking shot shaping, so if you're someone who's always wanted to shape the ball on demand but kind of struggles, then this is the video for you, because I'm going to be covering all of the basics about what we need to create in the delivery in order to produce those different shot shapes, and I'm going to be giving you some very easy tips and ideas about things you can implement straight away into your game that is going to help you do exactly that. Shot shaping basic number one is going to be path. What is it and how to manipulate it? Because it's a very vital part of this process. So how to think about it best is where the club is approaching from into impact. So I've got this alignment stick, which is obviously just essentially tracing my target line, my aim line. So if I think about the club approaching the ball from inside of that line, obviously that path is going to be into out. Maybe, wait. But generally speaking, if we're coming in from the inside, it's approaching the ball from inside, that's going to create an into out path, which is what we would need for a draw shape. Obviously there's another part to that which we'll cover after this, but talking strictly path, where the club head is approaching the ball from into impact, and obviously vice versa. If it's coming from more outside of that line, we're going to be coming across the ball, we're going to be swinging left, which is out to in, or a lot of people might think is over the top. Nowadays it's not necessarily the case, but just easiest way to think of path, where is the club approaching the ball from coming into impact, in or out? So something very important to note about path, as I was just explaining, a lot of people just assume that it's this side of the swing. So it's kind of where the club's coming from on the downswing is just everything. It'll be all and end all when it is just not the case. This side and how the club releases and where you exit matters just as much. So if I were to feel that the club is really dropping down behind me, so coming into impact, if I'm feeling like the club is really dropping down here, but I hold the wrist angles and I turn hard left, and my hands are exiting left around my body, and the club's obviously tracing that. So I'm going to get the club really down low and behind me, and then turn, hold. You can see actually quite a big fade, even though I'm really feeling like my hands are low and the club's dropping behind me, which would be really linked to people thinking in to out. But I really held the angles, held onto my wrists and turned hard left. So we can see at 8.1 degree out to in. Now if I did the exact opposite of that, in terms of I'm still going to feel the same on the downswing, dropping the club behind me, like extreme, like I'm really going to try and get it behind me. And then I'm going to let it overtake my hands, release the club head, roll the right hand, and feel like the club is exiting out, down the line, or even right of the target line. It's just up, down, really get it behind me, and throw and turn. Now we can see actually quite a big, didn't think of that much, but it wasn't the best strike in all fairness. 9.9 degrees into out. So very similar feeling here, but completely different release patterns. Literally like you couldn't get more different, even though I'm feeling the same kind of downswing feel. So that's a very, very important thing to note for a lot of people that are trying not to slice it or not to miss right, but they're holding this, they're holding the club here, they're not releasing it, and they're holding onto it so much, they're never releasing the club and wonder why it's always going right. It's just holding the face open. So let's talk draw then, the one that every amateur seems to want to be able to hit because they maybe struggled with a slice for ages. The draw, how do we hit it? What set of variables do we need in order to hit a draw? So we need the club generally coming from the inside on the downswing, approaching the ball from the inside and releasing out to the right, so the path from in to out with a face that's closed relative to the path. Now that's not closed to the target, it's closed relative to the path. So if you think of path again as swing direction, so if I'm 4 degrees into out and the face is 2 degrees closed to the path, the face actually in relationship to the dead square target line is still 2 degrees open. That's obviously going to get the ball starting right, but curving back to the left. So path from the inside with the face closed in relationship to the path. Now how are we going to go about doing that? Easy way generally to change path is to think about ball position and hand height. All right, so if we change our ball position, we will change the path. So if because the swing's obviously not a straight line, I'm not going straight out and straight through, it's a curve, essentially. If I put the ball on my back foot and I'm hitting it here, my hands or the club at this point are still traveling out to the right. So my hands would still be traveling out to the right at this point. Whereas if I move it further forward, if I was there, now my swing direction is actually left. So I'm exiting left around my body. Obviously, if we try to do anything crazy with our hands, that might change. But in general, ball position back here, hands are actually coming from the inside. We're traveling out to the right still. Further on, the more forward we move the ball position, the more out in the path is going to become, because now I'm exiting left around my body. So to get the path from the inside, let's budge that ball position back a little bit. And I'm also, so I'll probably go somewhere around there, which is actually probably quite middle for me, but I play my ball position really far forward. So middle, if you play it middle, just try and budge it a little bit further back. And then hands. I'm going to try and keep my hands a little bit lower as I come around the body, and then try and bring them in exactly the same angle. So a bit low and low, low and low. So if we go ball position a bit further back, low and low, it's quite a big right to left. I'm feeling low hands coming into the ball, ball position a bit further back. That should really, it's a really easy way of starting to budge that path from the inside. So many amateurs, generally speaking, will go, if we go to the top of the backswing, the hands will go that way. As soon as the hands go that way, then we have to start making all sorts of kind of compensations, try and shallow the club, get it back to impact, and that typically will get that over the top, down and across, out to in, slice. Whereas if we can try and feel hands low and coming back in exactly the same path, hand path in, we can actually get the path coming from the inside quite easily, and that paired up with that ball position being a little bit further back should really help get that path coming from the inside. So that's obviously part one. Right, so we've got a couple of tips to help get path coming from the inside, the ball position back, and maybe just keeping those hands a little bit more low and around, and making sure we're kind of tracing that hand path coming back into impact, low and around, pull from behind you, low hands into impact. That will get that path coming from the inside. And again, how extreme, that's quite extreme feel. So it's going to depend if you're someone who doesn't struggle to get the path from the inside anyway and hits a draw. Don't do that, because it will probably make you way worse. But if you're someone who generally gets a bit steep and maybe gets the club going out over the top a little bit, then you might have to feel that quite extreme. So the next bit, we've got the path coming from the inside. The next bit we need to get is the face in relationship to the path. So we need the face to be closed in relationship to the path to get it curving back. Because if we have a path away from the inside and a face that's open, so path there 6.7 degrees from the inside, so swing direction is essentially 7 degrees right, and then my face in relationship to that is 3.4 degrees open, so it's swing direction way out over there, face in relationship way open, so it's starting right, going right, bye-bye. So we got the path, but we did not get the face. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. Again, it's going to depend on your traits as well. If you're someone who is maybe a bit of a slicer, and therefore you're probably going to be getting the face very open on the way back, you're going to have to do this quite extreme. If you don't struggle with an open face, then you might not have to. But for this, we'll go quite extreme. So ball position a bit further back. We're going to feel a low and around hands. What I'm going to do is I'm actually almost going to feel like the toes a little bit in. I'm actually going to close the face a little bit, and I'm going to strengthen my right hand a little bit. So what that means is moving my right hand more underneath. Because if my right hand is more underneath, my right hand is quite dominant. It's just going to want to do that. It's going to want to turn the face closed. So if I toe it in a little bit, strengthen that right hand, that's essentially going to keep the face way more kind of closed throughout the backswing. So if we've got the path from coming low and around and the ball position being further back, and then we've got the face, basically I'm just holding it closed. If you want to make sure it's going to be closed, this is pretty extreme, I will say. But right, ball position far back. I'm going to toe it in a little bit, strong right hand grip, and this should have quite a lot of curve on it. There we go, beautiful. That's gone. That's actually not a terrible shot. but loads of curve on it, like way from the inside, way closed, lots and lots of curve, right? I don't need to feel that extreme because I'm not someone who struggles getting the club from the inside, and I am definitely not a stranger to a closed face because that is my miss. So that's extreme. I would never have to do that. I could almost just feel a pretty normal up, down, just dropping those hands, turning through it, and maybe feeling a little bit more of a release down the line. That would probably get a bit more of a neutral kind of draw for me. But those three kind of things, the ball position back helps the path a lot, low and around hands, really going to get that path coming from the inside, and then strengthening that grip, closing the face. It's an easy way to almost guarantee that right to left shape. But if you're someone who draws it, just be careful with that because that's pretty extreme. That's more for your slices out there if you really ever need to hit a draw and get out of trouble. So try and just hit a little bit more of a normal draw for you quickly. So my feeling for this, I always like hands up, hands down, turn. Pretty much no matter what shot shape I'm doing, hands up, hands down, turn. It's pretty much all I would really think about. So turn hands up, drop the hands, turn. And if I'm trying to hit a draw, say I probably will budge the ball position back a little bit and try and feel like I'm releasing the club down the line a little bit more. Fade will come into in a second. If I just feel more of like an up-down throw, it's actually pretty much dead straight. It's actually a little bit of a push. So got the path, didn't get the face. But up, down kind of just gets those hands coming a little bit from the inside. Yeah, it's pretty neutral delivery, to be fair. Don't mind that. Right, so let's touch on fade. So this is quite literally the exact opposite of everything we just kind of spoke about. So ball position, I'm going to put right at the front. So even with a 7-iron, I'm going to be probably in line with my left toe, like right at the front. But again, I am someone who already plays my ball position quite far forward. If I show you from side on, normal 7-iron, that would probably be me somewhere around there. So that's where a lot of you might play 3-wood. So again, just bear that in mind for yourself. So I'm going to budge it right to the front because again, we're going to be catching it later in the arc when we're traveling left. That's going to get that path moving left. And then again, we need to get the face. So I'm going to do kind of the opposite of what I did for the draw. I'm actually going to push the handle forward a little bit. So if we push the handle forward, it almost just sits the face open. Yeah. And I'm going to weaken my grip a little bit. I'm not going to be so under. I'm going to get a little bit more over because that's going to almost help me just keep that face open. So if we get the path moving left, but I'm holding the face open, we're obviously going to see that left to right shot shape. So we give that a go. Ball position, some forward. So I feel like I've got room here to go through. I'm almost going to feel like I'm going to hit the ball there. So I'm pulling the handle through this little gap here. Face is going to be open, path's going to be moving left, and you will definitely see that left to right shot shape. So let's try and hit one there. He says as he hits it pretty much straight left. No, it was 9.5 out to in, so that's moved the path way left, face 3.4 open. So just if the face wasn't quite open enough because that path was extreme. Again, these are quite extreme examples. So, if you're someone who generally comes way from the inside and gets that big, low spin, drawy shot that's not generally good for control, then this would be perfect for you to try. And again, similar to with the draw where the hands were a bit low and around, but you're going to feel a bit more up and out. As soon as we're a bit more up and out that way, I feel like I can just pull into that space here, and I'm essentially just pulling across my body. Again, leading with the handle, holding that angle more. Again, like I explained at the start, it's going to hold the face open, and we're going to see that left to right shot shape. I mean, you can play about with it and get as extreme as you like, to be honest. I probably wouldn't go quite that extreme on that one. I would still be feeling a drop and a turn. So a bit more of like a shallow and then turn. As soon as I get up and out too much like that, my path really gets probably too much from the outside. It's 10 out to in, face way open, and you get just a really weak, floaty kind of ball flight. So again, that is, to bear in mind, that is extreme. Whereas if you're someone who maybe doesn't need to go quite that extreme, budge the ball position a little bit further forward, still I would personally, and then I would feel just like more of a neutral kind of takeaway. So I'm just pushing straight back, drop the hands, but turn hard left, and don't release the club hard, just feel like you drop, turn, and that should get the path like a little bit less out to in. You actually get a fade that's coming straight back to target, almost on the target line. Lost a couple of yards, obviously, but it's a bit more of like a shallow turn, and that turn left is getting us the path. And again, holding that face, and that's pretty perfect, really. Absolutely perfect little fade. Right, we'll touch on the straight shot as well, the straight ball that everyone kind of comes in and says, I just want to hit it straight. I wouldn't recommend that, to be honest, because for most amateurs, it's really hard to get path square, face square. It's a really hard shot to hit, and you kind of can bring in a two-way miss a little bit easier as well. Whereas if you're actually trying to commit to a shape, I go, right, I'm going to draw this, I'm going to aim a little bit right, I'm really going to draw this. The likelihood is probably a little bit more likely to pull that off because you're committing to it. Whereas if you're just going, I hope this goes straight and just try and swing, could go anywhere. But again, my feeling always going to be the same: up, down, turn, up, down, almost feeling like I'm just trying to get to there, that position on the way back. I couldn't really care what I'm doing here, to be honest. But for me, it feels a bit easier to just go out, up, down, out, up, down. That's kind of my feeling, but up, down, turn. As soon as I'm feeling like I'm getting that club coming back here, drop in, I'm turning everything through. Hips are turning, shoulders are turning, everything's turning through together. That's my kind of feel. Let's see if we can actually pull one off here for you. Up, down, turn. A little bit of a draw. It's a good shot though. Pretty straight, to be fair. I mean, yeah, I'd take that every day of the week. 1.1 out to in with the face 0.1. So path 1 degree, I'm going to take that. It's pretty neutral, really. I mean, it's got hardly any curve to it. I'm going to call that a straight ball. So that would be my feeling of how to hit a straight ball. Get it there, out, up, down, drop those hands, get those hands dropping. Biggest thing I see in most fit-ins is straight away, most people's hands start going out away from the body from the top. So out, down, down, turn. Important to get those hands dropping and then turn and sync everything up together. And yeah, it should help you get somewhat of a neutral ball flight. Right, so let's have a quick little recap then. Path, we kind of touched on how to manipulate path, and that's going to be a lot easiest ways to do it. Again, I just want to call it a cheat, but ultimately golf is hard and we all need a little bit of help sometimes. Path, so ball position, back is going to move the path more from the inside. If you pair that up with a bit more of an around kind of feel, like a low and around feel. Again, I'm not saying this is the best way to coach or whatever, but I'm just telling you easy ways to manipulate your path. This is what I would do. Ball position back, bit more low and around. And again, from here, making sure that the hands are tracing the same line. We cannot have low and around and, oh, we get the shoulders turning. Get handsy. People are too afraid to get handsy and they're too much worried about rotation. We get there, turn, rotate, boom, everything's out. No, all hands, especially with a draw. If you're trying to hit a fade, yeah, fine, get the body working because that might actually get the club traveling out and then turn down and left, and you're obviously going to get that shape. Fine, if you're trying to hit a draw, do not do that. Feel hands, 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 hands. Getting the club overtaking the hands, releasing the hands. So right, if I hit the ball position, right back, I'm just going to hit one and not think about it and just swing. 4.3 into out, actually a pretty neutral ball flight. Now I'm going to do exactly the same, but with the ball position right at the front. Path 4.3 out to in. So at the back, 4 degrees into out. At the front, 4 degrees out to in. And I wasn't thinking anything different in those swings whatsoever. Easy way to maneuver path. And then yeah, it's just worrying about that face angle. I mean, if you feel uncomfortable playing around with grip, I understand that. A lot of amateurs don't like to play around with grip. But if you strengthen it, which is moving everything to my right hand really underneath, you're going to want to turn that over. Exact opposite. If it's weak, everything to my left. I mean, straight away, I want to do that. I want to open the face. So playing around with grip can really help. So yeah, I mean, there's a few little easy tips and tricks and hopefully understanding of how to shape different shots. Again, it's not really coaching, it's just an easy way of how I manipulate things. If I want to make sure I'm hitting a specific shot, that's the kind of things that I'm thinking about doing. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas, a few things to play around with. If you're a slicer, maybe try and do that little bit kind of closed face, hooded, little bit inside, getting that face closing over, rolling those forearms, trying to hit some big old draws to get out of your slice patterns. Play about with it, have a little bit of fun, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash that like button and that subscribe button. We're gonna have more content coming around clubs. This is kind of just an off-the-wall video that I did because a lot of people have said in my fittings how I explain things are quite easy to understand and it helped them a lot, so I thought I'd do a little bit of a video on it. But more coming on the clubs, lots of new releases coming soon, so yeah, please do subscribe and stay tuned. Any comments below, let me know, I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.